On December 31, 2023, 19-year-old Cheryl Turner left home telling her family she'd be back soon. She never returned. Days later, her body was found in pieces, floating in a river, scattered, discarded, as if she was nothing. We express our deepest condolences to the family of Cheryl Turner, to her friends, and to everyone who knew and loved her. No family should ever have to endure this kind of loss. No parent should ever have to wake up to a call that turns their world upside down. There are no words that can erase the pain or bring back what was taken. Cheryl Turner was 19 years old, young, full of life, and stepping into adulthood with dreams that stretched far beyond the small town she called home. She had a family that loved her, friends who cared, and a future waiting to unfold. But in the space of a few days, all of that was gone. She met a man online, someone who seemed charming, someone who knew the right words to say. Their conversations felt natural, effortless. They talked about life, about dreams, about things that made her laugh. He made her feel seen. He made her feel safe. And when he asked to meet in person, she said yes. She left home, telling her family she'd be back soon. But the hours passed, then days, and she never returned. Calls went unanswered. Messages were never read. Concern turned to panic. The people who loved her knew something was wrong. And then their worst fears became reality. A river. Silent, dark, unmovable. It held secrets, and on a cold, unforgiving morning it gave one of them up. A piece of her body was found, floating near the surface. Then another, and another. What was left of Cheryl Turner had been scattered, discarded, as if she meant nothing. The girl with so much ahead of her was gone. But why? What happened after she met him? What did he say? What did he do? And how did a simple conversation lead to something this horrific? This is the story of Cheryl Turner, a story that should have never been told. Cheryl Turner was 19 years old, a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was loved, she was cared for, she had dreams. The kind of dreams every young person has when they're stepping into adulthood, believing the world is full of possibilities. She was from New Iberia, Louisiana, a small town where people knew each other, where families were close, where neighbors looked out for one another. She grew up in a home filled with warmth, surrounded by people who cared deeply for her. Warmth. Her family knew her well, her habits, her laughter, the little things that made her who she was. Cheryl had always been independent. She was careful. She knew how to look out for herself. But she also believed in the good in people. She believed in connections. And when she met someone online, she saw no reason to be afraid. It started the way many things do these days. A message, a comment, a casual conversation. Maybe it was through a dating app, maybe it was through social media. However it happened, it seemed innocent. It felt normal. Two people talking, getting to know each other, sharing pieces of their lives through a screen. Anthony Holland wasn't a stranger for long. He was attentive, he knew how to say the right things, he listened, he made her feel interesting, special, important. He asked questions, he remembered details, he messaged her often, always checking in, always keeping the conversation going. It didn't happen overnight. It took time. Time for her to get comfortable. Time for her to believe she had met someone who truly cared. Time for her to trust him. But trust can be dangerous when it's given to the wrong person. Did he pretend to be someone he wasn't? Did he hide parts of himself that would have made her question him? People like Anthony don't always show who they really are. They know how to make themselves seem safe. They know how to make people believe they're worth trusting. Maybe it was the way he spoke, the way he paid attention, the way he made her feel like she was the only person in the world when they talked. Maybe it was the way he convinced her that meeting in person was a good idea, that nothing bad could happen, that she had nothing to worry about. She had no way of knowing that the person on the other side of the screen wasn't who he claimed to be. She had no way of knowing that this decision would be her last. January 1, 2024. A new year had begun, but for Cheryl Turner's family it was supposed to be just another day. They expected to see her, to hear her voice, to know she was safe. But by the end of that day, something felt off. Messages went unanswered. Calls rang without response. The silence was unsettling, but no one wanted to think the worst. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she had lost track of time. Maybe she would walk through the door at any moment. The truth was, Cheryl had left the day before. On December 31, 2023, she made a decision. One that seemed harmless at the time. She had been speaking with Anthony Holland, the man she met online. He had invited her to visit him in West Monroe. She agreed. Her last known message was sent around noon. It was short, casual, nothing out of the ordinary. A simple update, maybe telling someone she was on her way. After that, nothing. Had she hesitated before leaving? Did she have second thoughts? Did she ever feel something was off? There is no way to know, but looking back, there were warning signs. Anthony had been persistent, always eager to meet in person, always quick to reassure her that she had nothing to worry about. He told her he was excited to finally see her, that they would have a great time, that she would be safe with him. Maybe he said he couldn't wait any longer. Maybe he made it seem like this was something special. But people like him know what they're doing. They know how to make someone trust them. They say what needs to be said. And once that trust is given, once the decision is made, there's no turning back. The last time anyone saw Cheryl alive was when she left her home in New Iberia. She got into a vehicle, whether it was hers or someone else's. The road stretched ahead, leading her to a place she believed would be safe. In West Monroe, Anthony was waiting. What happened when she arrived? What were the last moments before everything changed? There were no witnesses. No one saw what took place behind closed doors. There was no CCTV capturing her final steps. All that's left are unanswered questions. A meeting that was supposed to be innocent, a girl who was supposed to return home, and a silence that would never be broken. By the time anyone realized the truth, it was already too late. Cheryl Turner arrived in West Monroe with no way of knowing what awaited her. She had trusted Anthony Holland. She had believed she was safe. The details of what happened next remain locked behind the walls of his apartment. No one knows the exact moment things took a turn. No one knows the words that were spoken, the actions that led to her final moments. But what authorities do know is that she never left that apartment alive. At some point after she arrived, Anthony attacked her. The circumstances surrounding the murder are horrifying, but what makes this case even more disturbing is what he did afterward. He didn't panic. He didn't run. He took his time. He had a plan. Cheryl's body wasn't found in one place. It was found in pieces, a discovery so gruesome that even experienced investigators struggled to process what they were looking at. He had dismembered her. He had disposed of her remains as if they were nothing more than trash. Days passed before anyone knew what had happened. Her family was searching, hoping for any sign that she was still alive, but as the hours turned into days, that hope began to fade. Then, on January 24, 2024, everything changed. A section of the Washita River, cold, still, unmoving, a place where no one was supposed to be. But something was there. A piece of human remains was found floating in the water. It wasn't clear at first who it belonged to. Investigators arrived, securing the area, searching for more evidence. And then they found another piece. And another. The reality of what had happened to Cheryl was undeniable. Her family received the news no parent should ever have to hear. The daughter they had been looking for wasn't coming home. The girl they had raised, the girl who had laughed with them, sat at their table, shared stories about her life, was gone. Authorities held a press conference. The sheriff stood in front of flashing cameras, reporters pressing for answers. The words came, slow, deliberate, careful not to reveal too much too soon. Her family didn't speak that day. They didn't need to. Their silence said everything. Their pain was visible, their loss immeasurable. Cheryl Turner had left home believing she was going to spend time with someone she could trust. Instead, she had walked into the hands of a man who saw her as nothing more than an opportunity, and he had done everything he could to make sure she would never be found. The discovery of human remains in the Washita River set off an investigation that moved quickly. Authorities knew they were dealing with a murder. The condition of the body left no doubt, but before they could identify the person responsible, they had to confirm who the victim was. Forensic teams worked tirelessly. DNA testing was conducted. The results came back. It was Cheryl Turner. With that confirmation, the case became a homicide investigation. Detectives retraced her last known movements, starting from the moment she left New Iberia. They went through phone records, social media activity, and any digital footprints that could point to who she had been with. It didn't take long before one name stood out: Anthony Holland. He had been the last person to speak with her, the last person she had made plans to see, the man she had trusted enough to travel miles away from home to meet. Investigators obtained surveillance footage from areas around his apartment. They went through cell tower data, tracking her phone's movements. The signal showed her device traveling toward West Monroe. Then, after she arrived, there was nothing. The phone never moved again. Calls went unanswered. Her digital presence went dark. But Anthony's phone? His movements told a different story. His device had remained active. In the days after Cheryl's disappearance, it had traveled to locations near the Washita River. There were gaps in his timeline, windows of time when his phone was powered off, moments when he wasn't where he claimed to be. Then came the most damning evidence. Store receipts, security footage, and forensic findings. Investigators discovered that Anthony had purchased cleaning supplies and trash bags shortly after Cheryl was last seen alive. The timeline was beginning to form, and every detail was pointing in one direction. Authorities moved in. On February 7, 2024, Anthony Holland was arrested. When officers arrived at his residence, he didn't try to run. He didn't protest. He didn't even ask why they were there. He was calm. Too calm. As if he had already accepted what was coming. At the station, detectives began their questioning. Where was he on the night Cheryl disappeared? He gave vague answers. He claimed he barely knew her, that she had never been at his apartment, that he had nothing to do with whatever happened to her. But as the questions got harder, Anthony's lies started to crumble. The evidence was undeniable. They had him on surveillance, they had his digital footprint, they had records of his purchases. They had proof of his movements, and yet he refused to confess. He sat there, silent, expressionless, as if none of it mattered. But the case against him was building. Whether he admitted it or not, the truth was catching up to him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Anthony Holland was charged with second-degree murder. Prosecutors made it clear this was not a case of impulse. It was not a moment of uncontrollable rage. This was calculated. Every action he took, from luring Cheryl to his apartment to the way he disposed of her remains, pointed to one undeniable fact. He knew exactly what he was doing. If convicted, he faced life in prison. No possibility of parole, no second chance. The legal system would ensure that he would never have another opportunity to harm anyone again. But through it all, he showed no remorse. In the courtroom, he sat there, cold, emotionless. He didn't cry, he didn't break down. He barely reacted as the evidence was presented, as prosecutors laid out every disturbing detail. At one point, he spoke. Not to apologize, not to show regret. He tried to justify his actions. He claimed things had gotten out of hand, that he didn't mean for it to happen this way. But the facts said otherwise. The evidence proved otherwise, and no explanation he could give would ever change what he had done. Cheryl's family was there. They had to sit through it all, every word, every piece of evidence, every painful reminder that the person they loved was gone. There was no bringing her back, no reversing what had happened. When it was time for them to speak, they did. Cheryl's mother stood in front of the court, her voice shaking but firm. She spoke of her daughter, of who she was before her name became part of a crime story. She spoke of the life she should have had, the milestones she would never reach. She told Anthony that he had taken away more than a life. He had taken away a daughter, a sister, a friend. He had left a hole in their family that could never be filled. There was no response from him, no sign that he cared. But this case was bigger than him. It was a warning, a reminder of the dangers that can hide behind a screen. Cheryl had trusted the wrong person. She had believed his words. She had thought she was safe. Her story is a painful lesson. Online interactions can be deceptive. The people on the other side of the screen are not always who they claim to be. The signs can be subtle. Too much interest too quickly, persistence that feels overwhelming, excuses that don't quite add up. Cheryl's family wants people to remember her for who she was, not for how she died. But they also want her story to serve as a message. Be careful. Trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, don't ignore it. Because the truth is, there are people in this world who don't see others as human. And once they've made up their mind, once they've decided what they want, there's nothing anyone can do to change it. Cheryl Turner didn't deserve this, and her family will never stop fighting to make sure her story is never forgotten. In the aftermath of this tragedy, her family has been vocal, not only in their grief, but in their determination to seek justice for Cheryl. They have expressed deep sorrow over the loss of their beloved daughter and sister, emphasizing the profound impact she had on their lives. Their statements serve as a poignant reminder of the human cost behind such senseless acts of violence. This case underscores the potential dangers lurking in online interactions. Cheryl's story is a stark reminder that individuals met through digital platforms may not always be who they present themselves to be. It's crucial to approach online relationships with caution, recognizing warning signs such as excessive interest too soon, overwhelming persistence, or inconsistencies in their stories. Cheryl's family wishes for her to be remembered for the joy and love she brought into the world, not solely for the tragic circumstances of her passing. They hope that by sharing her story, others will be inspired to exercise vigilance in their online interactions. Trust your instincts. If something feels amiss, it's essential to take it seriously. In a world where digital connections are commonplace, it's vital to remain aware that not everyone has good intentions. Some individuals may view others as mere opportunities, devoid of empathy or respect for human life. Cheryl Turner deserved a future filled with promise and happiness. Her family remains steadfast in their commitment to honor her memory and ensure that her story serves as a catalyst for awareness and change. They urge everyone to prioritize safety and mindfulness in all interactions, both online and offline. We encourage you to reflect on this story and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights and discussions can help foster a community of awareness and support. If you found this video informative and believe it can serve as a valuable lesson for others, please give it a thumbs up. Your engagement not only helps spread this important message, but also supports our channel in bringing more stories that matter. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. Together, we can create a safer online environment for everyone. Thank you for watching. Until next time.